Hello and welcome to the show. We start today with the Feltzer, possibly the lowest car in the game. This has got pretty much zero ground clearance. I would initially plan to do this episode to use a Futo. I could not find one. I spent a while driving around trying to find a blooming Futo, which I hadn't got rid of mine a while ago. In fact, I don't even think I got rid of it. I think the game lost it. It lost quite a few of my cars after one update. So yeah, I couldn't find another Futo. Instead, I saw one of these driving around. Thought it would be interesting to give it a go, just to kind of see what happens really. The only upgrades I've got on it are visual. It's got kind of the DTM style body kit. It won't actually affect the car as the body kit just goes through the floor, as you'll see. So yeah, that won't make a massive amount of difference. I may have messed up the the first corner, not quite got it stopped in time. Ran a bit wide and clipped the rather annoying rock and plummeted off the mountain. The Feltzer does have a rather interesting party trick. It can climb. It can climb mountains really rather well. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that one works, but somehow he managed to get the Feltzer out of where it shouldn't really have been rescued from. I don't know how it did that. Another slight downside to this car, very, very fast. May not have been expecting it to be quite as fast. Normally a sort of tap on the brakes over there works. No, going much too quickly for for that one. Yeah, the brakes are pretty good on this car. However, it is awfully quick, so you have to brake a little bit more than in some of the previous vehicles I have been using. The real problem though, it is this ground clearance, this ride height. You can see how much it gets bumped around in this opening section. Admittedly, that time I slightly misaligned myself for taking the jump. Yeah, that's what screwed me over. But it's this ground clearance, how much it gets bounced around when it hits the floor. It doesn't like landing the big jumps, as we see there. Nearly do a front flip on landing. It was always going to be a problem with this car. That's why I was interested to see how it would be affected down here. Managed to splatter a deer as well while rolling about on my roof. Yeah, there is absolutely nothing you can do about this. You've just basically got to be aware. You've got to be ready to catch it when it does something silly. Sometimes you can save it. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you'll be sort of taking a jump, you'll land awkwardly and suddenly the car will ping itself to the left or to the right and you will have very, very little control. It is this opening section that is a real problem for the Feltzer. It's a tough section sort of in general down here, as it is very, very bumpy. And it's also very steep. It's kind of deceptive. It looks a hell of a lot steeper when you're going up this side of the mountain than when you're going from this camera angle. It doesn't look particularly steep from this direction, but yeah, it really is. As again, you see there, the Feltzer just caught a bump slightly wrong and it spun round. Nothing I could do to stop that car. There, when I did get a bit further, yeah, it did some interesting things. I've never seen a car do that one before. I'm not entirely sure how that one works either. It's just clipped the bump a bit wrong, I guess. And yeah, it did a front flip that time, so there's one front flip for the Feltzer. Anyway, after a while, I did get a clean run out of this car. It wasn't the easiest car to drive down the mountain, it wasn't the hardest though. Once you are cautious enough, if you're careful enough not to kind of bump it about too much through this opening section, you will probably do alright. It is a pretty damn quick car though. Once you are clear of all the bumps, then you can actually sort of put the power down in this. Yeah, it's a sports car. I'm not sure, is it sports or is it super categorised as? I don't know. I have one in GTA. I literally bought this car in GTA Online just because of the engine. It has probably the best sounding engine of any car in this game. You're not going to hear the engine over the sound of the suspension screaming for help, but yeah, it's a really nice sounding car, and I also like the ridiculous body kit on this. Yeah, it's a pretty damn quick car. Well, when we compare it to most of the things that go down here, you know, the likes of the Adder, sure, maybe a little bit quicker overall, but this is still one of the fastest. We haven't had very many sports cars down here yet, and it's because they are very low to the ground, and this is the kind of thing that will happen. Nearly managed to roll it. Not quite sure how I did that one. Unfortunately, that sort of slowed me down for that next jump and had a little bit of an awkward landing. I was worried about taking this jump. Got away with it on the landing somehow. It actually landed properly, which is always nice. Nearly got it very wrong down this final section. Sort of just trying to get the thing back under control. Amazingly, I did a 360 spin and then had it land straight back on the road and could carry on with the run. Yeah, that was mighty lucky. on that final bit. I would like to say it was all skill. There was quite a bit of luck in that as well. And then it starts to rain as well. I am very glad it started to rain when I got to the bottom of the mountain. I would not want to try and drive this car in the wet down Mt Chiliad. I would imagine that would be not much fun. Because, yeah, it would slide all over the place and it would be rather bouncy. So, yeah, the Feltzer made it down to the bottom of the mountain. Up next, we have the Z-Type. I've seen quite a few requests for this vehicle, so I thought I would give it a go. This is the most expensive car in GTA at $10 million. Yeah, it costs rather a lot of money. I'm having to use Franklin for this run, as he is the only character I think that has enough money to buy this car on my game. So, yeah, he's now poor as well. This car is an interesting one. On the first run I did with this vehicle, everything went really rather smoothly, and I was surprised how easy this thing here was to drive. I got everything all right down here, didn't have any major problems, and sort of, yeah, there wasn't anything particularly wrong with it, and it was all going quite nicely until I tried to take a little bit too much speed down this final section. I thought I might be able to get away with it in the same way I did with the Feltzer. No, the Z-Type goes for a big crash off the edge of the mountain as well. But on the opening attempt, really didn't look particularly bad. It seemed like quite an easy car to drive, which surprised me. On the next attempt, well, it didn't exactly go to plan. In the most spectacular of ways, I managed to roll my car off a Cougar. Yeah, I've never done that before. I don't know how that one worked. I think what happened is I was actually sort of almost going on two wheels before I hit the Cougar, and when I hit it, it just kind of pinged the car over. As, yeah, you can see sort of how hilly that bit there is. Yeah, that is a new type of crash to have on Downhill Chaos. Never seen that one before, never done it before. The wildlife wasn't doing particularly well on that section. That time I didn't have a crash. Yeah, if you do that, you're gonna have a spin. Yeah, I tried to cut a little bit too much of the corner there and had my car in the air, and yes, it's also now completely stuck. So I had a few sort of dumb errors early on, and then I could not for the life of me get this car to the bottom of the mountain, and I don't really know why. Again, we have another problem on the landing of the jump this time. What seems to be happening is I'm not sure if it's the car being front heavy, as most of these vehicles here are front engined. Not sure if it's that, or if I'm just taking the jump a bit wrong, landing the jump a bit wrong. I'm having the car basically land on its nose, the back wheels in the air, and then you've got no control, no brakes and no steering. So yeah, again, back towards the front, had a little bit of, that's just a common thing to do if you're trying to take a little bit too much speed. Landed a little bit awkwardly, and there's a big fiery death as well for that one. Not particularly good in a very expensive car. I think we have the luckiest hiker ever who pays absolutely no attention to the $10 million car go flying past him, or her, I'm not even sure. Went past so quickly, didn't see. And again, it's another problem with landing that jump. I've never had so many problems on that jump. Of all the jumps on this track, that one is normally the easiest, yet these two cars were having a real difficulty. Across the line, bit cheatily, but I did kind of get the vehicle to the bottom mountain. This is a pretty damn quick vehicle as well. Similar thing, thought I'd slowed it down enough, apparently not. Off we go, down the side of the mountain. We do get a very spectacular flip though. There we go, look at that. Yeah, I quite like the Z-Type. It is pretty damn quick for one of these, I think, Sport Classics. Probably the quickest of all the Sport Classic cars. And yeah, it got a little bit carried away. Brakes aren't too bad on this car. Don't get me wrong, the brakes are pretty good. This is just me trying to take a little bit too much speed over the hill. And again, this time, thought I got it stopped. Not quite, kind of emergency handbrake turn. And we didn't fall off the mountain this time. But yeah, that is the run pretty much ruined. However, I did complete a run with the Z-Type. This took longer than it probably should have done with this car. It's hard to explain why this is a little bit, why I had problems with this car. I'm not really sure. It's not particularly bad down here. The ground clearance, while yes, of course, it's not a big 4x4, it is better than that of the Feltzer and some of the supercars, or some of the road cars, I should say, that we have had down here. And it's not particularly bad to drive. The brakes are okay. The speed, yeah, it's pretty fast, but again, not as fast as the likes of the Feltzer or the Adder. The only thing I can think of is it is quite a long car. It is surprisingly large, this vehicle. On the actual run I got with the Z-Type, I had a little bit of problem getting it turned into the hairpin. There was a few times I had issues with getting the car turned in there, because it is deceptively long when you're driving in third-person view. It's that very, very long bonnet on it that it is sort of a little bit of the problem, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just me being useless today. That's entirely possible. However, things were looking much better on this run. Amazingly, we have a hiker that actually reacts, wow, to my car flying past. I think that's the first time I've seen them react, or not react after being hit, or watching their friend be hit. As we come to the final section, things are a little bit calmer in the Z-Type than they were with the Feltzer. We're not massively on our side down here. Gets a little bit bumpy, as it normally does, around these final couple of corners. But the Z-Type has made it all the way to the bottom of the mountain. I may not have been paying massive attention as I crossed the line. Managed to crash it. Well, I can crash it there. Doesn't matter if I crash it there. But yeah, it made it all the way down. I don't know why I had trouble with this car. I can't tell you why there are problems with it, but there we go. Our third and final vehicle. I've seen this one suggested a few times. I'm going to have a go with a tow truck. This was a bit of a pain to get up here. I had to cargo bob it up in the end, and despite it being relatively sort of a small vehicle, it took an awful long time to get this to the top of the mountain. It took about the same amount of time as it took to get the fire truck up here. I'm going to run this one at night as well, just for a bit of variation. Being at night really doesn't make any difference. I know this route so well by now. I've spent so much time driving down here. I've also spent so much time in the loading screens when I go to retry one of these. Anyway, on the first attempt, yeah, things may have gone wrong. I managed to do a J-turn sort of while halfway down a mountain and drove over a rock. Yeah, I got away with that one quite well. But yeah, that's that run pretty much ruined. Yeah, as I say, sorry, at night time, with the headlights on, you can see plenty well enough. It's not really a disadvantage to be running at night time. Second attempt, just can't get it stopped. The brakes on this tow truck are absolutely terrible. They are, well, they are equal to the likes of the semi-truck with the trailer. That's how bad they are. It really does not stop very well. And I'm not sure why, because it's not as heavy as sort of like the bus or the truck with the trailer or the fire truck. I mean, sure, it's not going to be as light as the road cars that we've thrown down here, but it's not. I wouldn't have thought it was massively heavy. However, I got very lucky, and while the Z-Type took a lot longer than it should have done, I got away with this one in a lot quicker time than I expected. When I after those first two attempts, I thought, it's going to be it's going to be an hour or two, probably, before I get a good run with this. When I say that, that is with half the time being spent in the loading screens, reloading it at the top of the mountain. Yeah, I was expecting there to be problems with the tow truck. However, it didn't really happen like that. I don't know. I was cautious enough to keep the thing on the road. Yeah, it is going to be a pretty slow time with this tow truck, because you are having to brake so much in this. Because if you let it get carried away just a little bit, you just can't stop it. There is just absolutely nothing you can do. It's also not the easiest of vehicles to drive. It's not particularly manoeuvrable, although that's to be expected. You're driving a tow truck down a mountain. But yeah, it's the brakes. I don't know why. I really am not sure why the brakes are so terrible. I'm having to be really cautious through here, just so that you can see, even there with me being cautious, I was running a bit wide. I just cannot attack the corners. I may have tried to cut a little bit of the track a bit too much there. Yeah, I just could not. I got a little bit of a slide going on there as well. I couldn't really push this vehicle because I had to be on the brakes so much just to try and keep the thing under control. Didn't have any problems with the car bouncing around like with the Feltzer. Landed the jumps also pretty well. I couldn't get it stopped and couldn't get it turned to take my preferred route, so I had to end up going down this high road. I was worried I wasn't going to stop when I fell off the end. Luckily I was going slow enough and I could sort of pull it up before the second to last corner, and then it's a pretty straightforward run to the line, and the tow truck has made it down the mountain amazingly easy. You'll see how bad the brakes are. That's fully on the brakes. I normally put the brakes on vehicles as I land that jump, and they'll sort of stop long before they get down here. I think the fire truck also got like this sort of distance. Yeah, God. I got really lucky with that run. I I managed to get down there in a clean and a decent enough time with the tow truck. Anyway, on to the leaderboard times, and the Z-Type puts in a really rather impressive time with a 126.27. I was amazed how quickly that thing got down the bottom of the mountain. That's really rather impressive. That's quicker than the patched Sand King. That's the big off-roady vehicle that's now four-wheel drive. Yeah, the Z-Type is quicker down the mountain. The Feltzer also did pretty damn well considering its terribly low ride height to go to 11th. It loses so much time in that first sector though with that car. The tow truck, well, it's down towards the bottom. No real surprise about that. It goes 25th with a 1:45.0. Yeah, it got to the bottom of the mountain a lot easier than it probably should have done. It's not particularly quick, though. The brakes on that thing are absolutely atrocious. It really does struggle getting stopped. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. So thank you very much for watching. If you have suggestions for cars you would like to see me race down the mountain, then you can leave them in the comment section. I'll have a look through, and the most popular or my favourites will be in a video at some point. However, until next time, goodbye.